This is part 3 of an interview with Maryhannah Hansen Throm, who grew up on Divide Creek in the 1930s. In this segment of the interview, Maryhannah talks about how her family and the community of Divide Creek and Rifle reached out to the people who were having a struggle during the hard times of the 1930s.
I've been watching this thing with the Dust Bowl.
The Dust Bowl, yes.
And some of that same thing. They were, what do you do? Well, you help each other.
And part of it came even before the Dust Bowl. You were cooperating with one another because there wasn't a lot. People didn't have a lot.
Didn't have a lot. They didn't have a lot of money. They didn't have a lot of things, but they had each other. And my mother and dad went and played cards with the neighbor. They had a neighborhood card game, and we kids had to stay home on Sunday night and cook our own dinner.
So what did that show, the Dust Bowl, bring up for you when you watched? I mean, that was just, people from your time.
It was from my time. The toughness of people, the resilience of people, to just hang in there when the going is tough and do what you have to do to get by. And that's what they did. Some of them left. Some of them said, no, they're getting out of here, and they went to California and starved out there instead of they might as well starve in Kansas or starve in California.
Well, but some of the stories that you've just told, I mean, you had it much better than those folks living in the Dust Bowl. But
yeah, we had it much better.
But you were living pretty tough.
We were living pretty frugal, and we didn't have but we had a close family. We had enough. We always had food, and we always had shelter after Dad's got the windows back in the house and got the house somewhere near fixed up. It wasn't like we have now. It wasn't central heat. I remember when my husband and I bought this house, it still had a heater over there in that corner and a coal stove in the kitchen. And the first thing he did is put in a furnace. We dug the basement out underneath this house, and he put in a furnace and put central heat in this house, a coal furnace.
Oh, you found a man just like your grandpa and your dad, huh? I mean, he
came from Kansas, a hard-working man. And he worked and put that in, and I can still remember he turned the furnace on Thanksgiving Day, and I can remember feeling it warm down around my feet. This house was cold.
Oh,
This house was cold. If you used the dining room, you had to have this room so hot you couldn't, it was cold. And the water froze
That must have been one of the greatest gifts your husband ever gave you, is that central heat, huh?
Getting the furnace in. He gave me a lot of things. 4 beautiful children, among other things. See, there was a couple other things that I wanted to tell you. Oh, one of the things I wanted to tell you that that has definitely to do with the Depression was almost always Dad had some guy in the wintertime that lived. We had a bunkhouse, and he lived in the bunkhouse, ate with us, and helped Dad do the feeding with the cattle. But only thing he got out of it was a bed to sleep in. There was a stove out there. He could heat it if he wanted. Food, and money enough to buy his cigarettes if he smoked. That's what the guy got, because there were no jobs for those people. No, and some guy would come, and sometimes it would, just some guy that Dad knew from somebody in town or somebody, and, well, Delbert needs a place he'll come and help me this winter with the work. Well, I know now that he was there because it was where he had food and shelter and cigarette money.
Now, were these itinerant people? I mean, did they come from somewhere else, or were they people that were just having a hard time within the community?
Sometimes there were people from this one particular guy that was there a lot, and then would work for Dad for wages in the summertime, but then he stayed all the year round with no wage in the winter as soon as the fall work was done. was a local person. And he just stayed there because he had no place else to go. And he'd help Dad for food and tobacco money.
Were there hobo camps back in those days?
Yeah, they came through where we were. They would come through once in a while, and Mother and Dad never turned anybody away that was hungry. They were never allowed to come into the house, but they were always given food. And sometimes...
Well, how'd they find their way clear up to Divide Creek?
They'd come over from Colburn.
Oh. Just walking? Or whatever?
Yeah, walking. The typical hobo pack on their back. And sometimes Dad would let them sleep in the barn. And they didn't come in the wintertime much. These were people that would be passing through in the summer when it was decent to be out and walk. And they always were given food and always a place if they wanted to stay overnight. But they never turned them away. We didn't. And once in a while we'd have a band of gypsies come through. And we kids were not allowed to get close to where they were. That was... True
gypsies?
True gypsies, yes.
Romans. So how would they come through? I mean, what
with a wagon and and stuff.
So did they stay overnight, or how did that work, or was it?
No, they stayed down on the road, and we weren't allowed to get close to where they were. Now they'd sometimes come to the house and try to beg a little bit, but they didn't get anything. We didn't call them beggars; we called them hobos, and the hobies or the gypsies. The gypsies are coming. You kids get in the house and get back.
Where did they come from? These.
They came. I don't know where they came from. They would always come from the south, over the hill from Colburn, and down the silt. So I guess they. I don't know where they came from. Never thought about where they came from.
But they would come through in the summer sometime.
In the summer, some passing through, and they'd be strange-looking people to me. Oh, I was going to tell you about. There was another gentleman who lived at Colburn. His name was Lee Armour. And he came to our house. He delivered Watkins products. Did you ever hear of Watkins products? Well, they were spices and vinegar, vanilla, and a few little, shampoos and stuff like that. And he had this little funny covered wagon and a team. And he had a bad head, and his head was worse than mine. He ate with a fork and spoon and thing, and he always stayed all night at our place. And he would come over, and Dad would put up his team, and we would feed him, and he always stayed with us. And then he went on and peddled his wares, and he came about twice a year.
Well, he stayed in the house.
He stayed well, probably in the bunkhouse.
Yeah.
Guys like that always stayed. We had this bunkhouse.
But was he pretty entertaining, this guy?
Oh, he was a great old guy.
He must have had to be if he was.
He was a great old guy. But the thing that I particularly wanted to tell you, the highlight of him coming, is he always gave us a piece of gum. We didn't have gum. We got gum. To get a whole stick of gum, does your chewing gum loses flavor on the bedpost overnight? Well, you kind of saved your gum. That's where, we would save our gum and chew it. We'd get it the next day out of the cupboard, not on the bedpost, but we'd save it because gum was something we didn't have.
So you'd chew it and chew it till it finally went away.
Chew it till it was, wasn't fit to put in your mouth, I'm sure. But he would come, and he was a great old guy. But we loved it when we'd see him coming over the hill. We'd run out to meet. Our house was a quarter of a mile from the county road, and we'd run out to meet him and open the gate for him and invite him in. And he would, he was just a friendly, neatest old guy. And he still has some family over around the Colburn area.
So was he so he lived in Colburn.
He lived in Colburn.
Make
the circuit around. And I don't know. He didn't go back past our place. So I don't know. He probably went to DeBeck and over I bet he went to DeBeck and over that cutoff road. Now, what else do I have written down here? Oh, one of the things we got for Christmas on the one year on the community Christmas was a new toothbrush. Can you imagine giving a kid a new toothbrush? We were thrilled.
Yeah.
Sure. Another toiletries that we got for Christmas. This was that's part of the Depression. Toys, we got one toy maybe.
Was there music in your house growing up?
Mm-hmm. There was.
Piano or what?
No. One of the guys that stayed with us year-round a lot of times played guitar. And he played guitar. And in the evening when you had nothing to do, of course, radio was dead because the battery was dead and you're tired of car. And he'd play the guitar and we'd sit around and sing. And have a good time doing that. And we went to the country dances when there was music there. There wasn't... And then when I was a little later on, I learned to play the harmonica when I was out in the hayfield by myself, just to have something to do. So I never was real good at it, but I had fun trying. I like music. I was in a band. Yeah, we danced. We went to the country dances and danced all night. They were always held at the schoolhouses, Well,
and that was another thing that people did, got together and danced
during
those times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Usually it was on Saturday night. At one of the schools, there'd be a dance, and we'd go to Dry Hollow to the dance or Fairview to the dance. And there was a little drinking and a little fighting from time to time.
Could kids go, or was this for...
No, everybody went. Kids went.
Yeah? What did kids do while adults were dancing?
Kids they danced or tried to, or ran around, got in everybody's way. And then they would push the seats from those rows of seats that all the country schools had back in the library tables and throw their coats on. Then the little ones would go to sleep on those and sleep. You took the kids and everybody with you. The babysitter who had any money to pay or anybody that wanted to. It was unheard of to have somebody come and stay with your kids while you did anything.
That was Maryhannah Hansen Throm, part 3 of a 3-part interview done in November of 2012.